Today, we uncover Kratos' lost years, a journey through exile, Egypt, Midgard, and a past that followed him. But to understand how he got there, we have to return to where it all began. We all remember how God of War 3 ended. Kratos finally defeated Zeus. Olympus had fallen, and the Greek world was collapsing around him. Years later, God of War returned, but Kratos was no longer in Greece. He was living in the Norse realm of Midgard, but the games only gave us fragments. How he reached that point. The rest of the answer was scattered across several stories. After surviving the Blade of Olympus, Kratos did not remain to rebuild Greece. He did not search for another throne. He left. Fallen God begins with Kratos trying to escape everything connected to his old life, his homeland, his shame, and the weapons that had followed him. Since Ares first chained them to his arms, but leaving Greece did not mean Greece was finished with him. Kratos threw the blade of chaos from a cliff. When he woke, they were beside him. He cast them into the sea. They returned again. No matter how far he traveled, the blades followed. They were more than weapons now. They were reminders of every life he had taken, every god who had manipulated him, and every part of himself he wanted to bury. During his journey, Athena appeared to him again. He told Kratos that his purpose was not finished, that he could not escape destiny. Simply by walking away, Kratos rejected her. He had spent his entire life being commanded by gods, prophecies, and promises. He wanted no new mission, no new master. He wanted only distance. So Kratos sailed away from Greece and eventually reached the land of the pharaohs. Egypt was not a new home. It was another place to disappear. He crossed the desert alone, abandoning the blades whenever they returned. But stories of the ghost of Sparta had traveled farther than he had. When villagers saw him, they already knew his name. Kratos had escaped Greece, but he had not escaped his reputation. In Egypt, Kratos encountered a mysterious old man. The stranger spoke about fate and a purpose waiting for him. In the land of pharaohs, Kratos refused to listen, but the old man kept returning, sometimes as a man, sometimes as an ibis, sometimes as a baboon. He was Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom. Soon after, a chaos beast attacked the nervous settlement. The villagers begged Kratos to save them. At first, he wanted no part in another god's plan. But when the creatures threatened everyone around him, Kratos fought. He killed the first beast with his own strength. Then, a much larger creature emerged from the water. Kratos attacked again, and this time, he was overwhelmed. Unconscious, Kratos found himself before Athena and Thoth. Both told him the same thing. He could continue running, but violence would continue finding. The blade of chaos appeared before him once more. Kratos hated them, but the settlement would be destroyed without them. So for the first time since leaving Greece, he stopped trying to abandon the blades and chose to use them. Kratos returned to the battle with the blade of chaos in his hands. He killed the second beast and saved the surviving villagers. Thoth told him that his purpose in Egypt was complete. Then Kratos left, still carrying the weapons he had tried so desperately to lose. Egypt did not give Kratos peace, but it forced him to comfort one truth. He could not erase his part. He could only choose what he would do with next. For Egypt, the record becomes fragmented. The official novelization reveals the memory. Kratos had breathed for decades. He was surrounded by three enormous wolves, each nearly twice his height, one black, one white, and one gray. Behind them stood a hooded woman, directing their attack. Kratos fought back, but the black wolf seized him and dragged him away. The novel never reveals where the wolves took him, but this memory offers the strongest clue we have. Kratos may not have entered Midgard by choice. He may have been carried there. Years later, Kratos would wonder if those creatures had brought him into the Northlands. The clearest connection appeared inside Tyr's vault. When Atreus identified a mural of Skull and Hati, Kratos immediately remembered the wolves. For a moment, he questioned whether they were the same creatures that had attacked him. This is why some believe two of the wolves were Skull and Hati, and the third may have been connected to Fenrir, but one detail weakens the theory. Kratos could not remember the wolves from his past being nearly as large. So the connection is possible, but their identities were never confirmed. God of War Ragnarok introduced another possibility. When Atreus entered Ironwood, he encountered an entire pack of wolves, living under Andromeda's protection. They guided him through the forest and remained close to her home. Could the creatures that carried Kratos north have been wolves from Ironwood, rather than Skull and Hati? And could the hooded woman have been Andromeda herself? Some still believe the woman was Faye, but Andromeda's connection to the Ironwood wolves creates another possible explanation. None of these theories are confirmed. Ragnarok never directly connects Andromeda, Faye, or the Ironwood pack to Kratos' arrival. Then Kratos made Laufey. To him, she became Faye, but she was far more than the quiet wife. Remember, at the beginning of God of War, Faye was a Jotun warrior, a guardian of her people, and a rebel against the Aesir. When she and Kratos first met, they fought. Neither of them knew how important the other would become. Their first battle did not become another war, but carried the execution of lives shaped by gods and violence. Over time, suspicion became trust, and trust became love. Kratos told Faye about the man he had been. When they built a home in the wildwoods, he did the blade of chaos beneath it, not because his past was gone, but because he wanted it separated from the life they were building. Years later, Faye gave birth to Atreus. The boy was often sick, and Faye became his main teacher. She taught him language, trekking, archery, and how to understand the world around him. Kratos remained distant. He loved his son, but feared what his own blood might pass on. He knew how to train a soldier. He did not yet know how to raise a child. But Kratos had not completed his transformation. At the beginning of God of War, he was still cold, secretive, and afraid of emotional weakness. Faye had shown him another way to live. But after her death, Atreus forced Kratos to actually walk that path. The boy did not begin to change. He became the test. Kratos could no longer avoid. Cory Barlog described Atreus as the humanity Kratos had lost. And that is exactly what their journey was. Atreus questions him, challenges him, and needs him. Kratos can no longer survive through silence alone. He must explain, listen, trust, and eventually tell his son the truth, not only about the gods, but about himself. That is why the missing years matter. Without them, Kratos' new life can look like a sudden reinvention, but it was not sudden. Atreus did not turn a monster into a father. Overnight, he revealed the father Kratos had spent years trying to become. So, what happened after God of War 3? Kratos survived. He abandoned Greece. He failed to escape the blade of chaos. He crossed Egypt. He entered the Northlands. He met Faye, and he built a family. The ghost of Sparta did not disappear. Kratos simply stopped allowing it to decay everything he will become. And that is how the god who destroyed Olympus became the father we know today. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. See you next one.